Um, I'm gonna try to do a video at night. It actually got dark on me, and usually I always say good afternoon. But anyway, I hope you have a good evening. I hope I can get through this video and not have to wait till in the morning. But um, I been spending a few days since I am unpacking. I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico a week ago from Denver, and I was trying to get all my electronics together and sort of just get organized and get back to the genealogy that I love to do. But I was talking to my sister, and she'd asked me who I was going to do next, and I said, For some reason, Lucy Finn came to my mind because I thought her parents actually came in from Ireland, and I thought that would be, you know, a good way to get across the pond. And they did go in from Ireland. They went to Canada, and from Canada, then they went to Michigan, which is kind of the McDonald's did that. I think it's a common uh, trip for people to make to come from like Ireland, Scotland, England, and then going to Canada. And then from Canada, they go into to Michigan. Now, Michigan was a lumbering community also, like where they ended up out in Washington, where I was born and raised. And so, but all of a sudden I realized Lucy Finn married a Kennedy, and it's been, you just not a snicker. Oh yeah, we're related to Kennedys. But as I was looking at the Kennedy family, I thought, no, I think I really do want to work the Kennedys, and the Finns are there. I mean, and immediately I saw, started looking at and referring to their children. And then as I, you know, started delving into it, had a few more conversations with my sister, and told her that, that I was going to go with the Kennedys. And so then we started laughing about this whole story, and she knows more about it than me, because again, she's older and I'm the baby. Actually, we have a baby brother. Um, it was there's was a lady named Vernita, and for some reason, my mom was very, very jealous of Vernita and did not like my dad having anything to do with Vernita. And from the stories, the way it went, it sounded like he would go up and visit their family on the farm where Vernita lived. And we don't have all the information because they're all gone. But my sister actually had correspondence, and I believe had spoken to Vernita in one of her visits up in that area where they ended up, and also it actually knocked on her door one day when she was up there. And Vernita kind of shooed her away. She said it looked like she was entertaining a man and wasn't interested in who my sister was at all. So in this process, my sister has found closure for sure, because Vernita's died and I had the date for her to be able to kind of finish that. Now, and Vernita had a sister also. Um, Vernita had Violet was her sister, Violet May, and we don't have a lot on Violet May, and I want to do more research in that area. But one of the things that I was kind of curious about was um, Vernita's father name was Robert. They put W. You're gonna hear me say a lot of the Williams. They just do that, stick them all around. And everybody's name has William somehow. So her Vernita's dad was Robert W. Kennedy, and then her grandfather was William Robert. Sorry, William Robert Kennedy, and his father was William W. Kennedy. Now, if it sounds confusing, I will try to make it as simplistic as possible, because it does cause little hiccups as you're working on it. So I've had to, draw some things and do a lot more writing and to fill in the gaps. So, we had the little bit about Vernita. So I was looking into um, Vernita's father was Robert, and then he had a brother named Eldon. Now, these were the two kids, the two older kids of William Robert Kennedy. There were other kids, but I only got as far as just the two so far. So Robert William Kennedy, in the census he shows that he was in Alpena in 1900, and by 1920 he was in Aberdeen, uh, Washington, around the Grays Harbor. Total lumber company town, mills, water with the logs in them, trains bringing the logs down to the one of the things I found interesting, he actually was doing something very similar as far as occupation when he lived in Michigan. So sometimes there's no jobs in some of those other areas, and so somebody adventurous either talk to somebody else in the family or they go up by themselves or just take their family and they go on these big adventures. And so that's a long way from Michigan to the West Coast because that area is so close right to the ocean. And when we were growing up, we would go up to that area and we'd pitch a tent and stay 2 weeks and clam dig and fish. And my mother would grind the clams up and can them right there next to the tent. And it was quite an ordeal, but that's what we did. And we always loved going to that part of vacation. Vacationing there was really special to us. So when I was looking at William Robert Kennedy, which would have been Vernita's grandfather, not his father, not her father, but her grandfather. And as I'm going through his records, I'm like finding these different things about stuff that I haven't seen before. Like, and I've been doing genealogy for quite a while, but I just hadn't seen it before like this. And when he was 51 years old, he went to Key West, Florida, and he had permission to go into Cuba. And it listed him as married. It looked like it was maybe a vacation, but I don't know any vacations in Cuba. Why, back in those days, I mean, he was born in 1866, and he was 51 years old, so that's kind of a long time ago. But then later on, there was a reference to him applying for a passport, and this passport was requested in October 31st of 1921. And at that point, William Robert was 55 years old. And he listed the places he was going to go to. And he listed Hong Kong, China, Japan, Canada, and the Philippine Islands, Manila especially. Now, I I don't know. I mean, I love doing these. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. It's like a mystery. It's all like, why did this man, where was he going? Why was he doing this? And so then I realized, his brother, so he had a brother, Eldon Kennedy. And Eldon, he did not, as far as I can tell, he didn't have any wife. I found a marriage to a Cecilia Neely, and I'm going to do some more research into the Neely. But at some point, he went on some of those trips with his dad. And so it shows his records, and that was in the 1921 thing of going to Manila, the Philippines, um, with his father. And they had asked him how much money did he have with him, and he had $3,000. Well, $3,000 back then was a lot of money. Now, I don't know. They both basically worked in mills. They both were sawyers, Sawyer, was kind of a um, a specialized person who worked in the lumber mills doing all kinds of different things. But what were they doing? Why were they going to this part of the world with $3,000? So followed Eldon a little bit, and he ended up. It was kind of a combination. It says he died in Los Angeles, but he was buried in Highland Cemetery in Seattle, Washington. And I know that I have run into that quite often, where maybe the transportation was less expensive or something, but they would put dead bodies, corpse, in a train and take them back to the town where there was a plot for them. So this may be what happened with Eldon. Now, the other, his his brother, who was married, um, I found a death certificate on him, and when he was 56 years old. And that was 1 year after these trips that he made around the world. He hanged himself, committed suicide, and that was on the death certificate. And I have to say, I have found many interesting things when I'm reading the medical certificates about people and the ages of, you know, like Mary, that was related to us. I mean, she died at the age of 60, I think, but she actually had cancer of the stomach or bleeding. I don't know. I'll get to that. But usually it's health related in a normal way. It's not necessarily like a suicide. So that kind of added to the whole thing about those two characters in this part of our family, that I am hoping to contact some other people that I have found, um, and contact them that they come in being related, not 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 like grandparents and first cousins or something like that. So they're down the line, but a lot of them have been doing genealogy for a number of years, and they might have another piece to this puzzle that I'm interested in finding out. You know, what was going on that would have caused that man to do that. Now, back to Vernita. um, she, from what my sister said, that she evidently, either this was passed on information to my mother or if my sister actually saw this, but Vernita's house was decorated with beautiful crystal, um, not the crystals like I wear, like my Herkimer bead crystals, but like, you know, vases and all kinds of this huge collection. Now, the only time I was aware of that happening, that was not, I don't know that it was this time zone, but a little bit earlier, there was one of our relatives was married to a merchant seaman, and so he was going from port to port to port to port, and then he'd have a big break, but he'd come back and he'd bring her all these wonderful pieces of, she preferred, the Oriental type things. And if you look up on my bookcase up there, there's a little. I don't. It's almost like when they build a ship in a rock. I don't know how they got it in there, but it's just hand delicately carved, pieces of wood in this little container. And you might also notice that, I'm getting in the spirit, and I have decorated back there, and Santa Claus is out at his box, and so I hope to, continue tomorrow with more information, about this, and I hope you're as intrigued as I am. And have a good evening. Bye.